Of all the shows to cancel, you had to pick like the one of 3 that were actually good.
Not just good.
Potentially good.
Excellent. I think it was pretty excellent.
Yeah, and I feel like the 3rd season really set up for making it even, like, more amazing.
Right.
I mean, moving to Vegas, Mark Maron just chewing the scenery. Damn it.
It's the best adaptation of Castlevania I've ever seen.
Bar none. Bar none. So in that theoretical universe, who is Simon? Is it Zara?
Whoever he says.
All right. That's fair. That's fair. I actually didn't play a lot of Castlevania as a lad. I was more of a
That's
Metroid.
because you're not fun.
No, I just like Metroid better.
You can play both, you
No.
know.
Mm-mm. You cannot. It's one or the other.
I didn't realize there was so much of a Cold War.
It's not cold, it's red hot. Like the lasers.
Well,
that
if you
Santa
have the whip.
shoots. Pew, pew, pew. Unless it's the ice laser, because then it would be very cold, I guess. Yeah.
I think we can. That's probably good for the Nintendo conversation. For
I don't know, man. I got a lot of feelings. Oh, hello, alleged human, and welcome to the Chaos Lever podcast. My name is Ned, and I'm definitely not a robot. I come from a land down under, where women glow and men compute pi to 1,000 places. If only Kyrie would show up with a laser and show me the path I must travel with my human feet. With me is Chris, who is also here. Hi, Chris.
I am here.
So in the pantheon of misunderstood lyrics, I think those 2 songs rank pretty highly. I really thought it was "Give me a laser to show me the path I must travel," and not "Kyrie a laser," which, when you look at it, one of those makes a lot more sense than the other.
It's Kyrie eleison. It's something in a different language.
None of that makes sense to me. Shouldn't it just be "Give me a laser"? Because lasers are good at pointing. They point things.
It's true, and if they're good enough lasers, then they can do more than just point.
They could cut through things, I suppose.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Like your bullshit. Nice.
Oh, wow. I walked right into
Nailed
that.
it.
Look at you being clever on a Monday.
It's always nice when the mescaline hits at just the right time.
You got to maintain a certain level. Oh, I'm so glad we talked about that yesterday because you were in a ditch, you were in a gulch, you were downtrodden, and now look at you, shining example.
I am a legend in my own mind.
Yes, aren't we all? We're all the main character of our own little movie.
Not you.
No, that would be Kyrie. Anyway, let's talk about some tech garbage, shall we?
Do it.
Whew, I just flew back from HashiConf, and boy, are my tacos tired. Huh?
Wait, what?
Well, you know how, maybe you don't know. You don't watch any of my YouTube stuff. You don't care. It's fine.
No, I just mock the funny faces you make for impact and then move on.
Well, excellent. So you may not know that my Terraform videos have an ongoing theme regarding tacos. It was kind of an accident at first.
Okay, I was going to say, is it more in-depth than just tacos are delicious and more people should eat them?
I mean, that is definitely a central premise that I like to explore, but it has more to do with the fact that I was trying to come up with a good way of explaining the difference between declarative and imperative code. And my example was, how would you build a taco with each one? Because people like food. And so, I thought it would be
I
a relevant
declare that
example.
I like tacos.
Yeah, it went something
Am I,
along those lines. And
am I
that
doing it
kind
right?
of, it snowballed into a whole thing. Now I have like a taco shirt, and people know me for taco things. And I brought a bunch of tiny little 3D printed tacos with Terraform in them to HashiConf, and I gave them all away. So these are all true things that happened.
I believe you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's talk about HashiConf and not tacos. So
If we must.
we must. You told me to do this because you're lazy and you didn't want to write. Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Nuh-uh. It's
Uh-huh.
timely.
Yeah.
I'm helping.
You're helping me do more. It's great. Oh, anyway. So for those who are not aware, HashiConf, as the name strongly implies, is the annual conference held by HashiCorp, creator of products like Terraform and a bunch of other things you might not have heard of. There used to be a HashiConf EU and a HashiConf Global, but with the pandemic and drop in overall conference attendance for tech events, they've shortened the EU event to a single day and renamed HashiConf Global just HashiConf, which they didn't tell me until I'd already made one video about it. So that was fun.
The
Now,
global is implied.
I suppose full transparency, I am a HashiCorp ambassador, and they've also been an occasional sponsor of my content. So I might be a little bit biased, but I will do my best to stay objective. You can call me call me on it when I'm not, or don't.
You're not.
Damn it, so soon. Usually, the recap of any given conference is a list of announcements. So why don't we start there? One thing I've noticed over the years at tech conferences, and I'm sure, Chris, you've noticed something kind of similar, is that lately they rarely have the bombastic announcements that they used to. You know, the and one more thing kind of situation. I think in part that's because of the 24-hour news cycle that demands constant drips of products and features to appease the content beast. But it's also a symptom of open source software and the concept of private previews.
So by private preview, you mean when companies use their customers to do quality assurance?
Oh yeah, yeah. When they ask you to do a private preview, they're asking you to be an alpha tester.
Hmm.
Here's this thing that's broken. Tell us how it's
Fix this.
broken.
Fix this thing for us so we can sell it back to you for profit.
You would think if you were participating in a private preview, then you would get some sort of discounted access to the product for like the next 2 years or something.
That's adorable.
Isn't it though? Anyhow, so open source, and here I am using the term to describe software whose code is freely available. Let's not get into a fight about it. Open source software doesn't really have much in the way to hide because the software is ostensibly being developed in the open. You can just look through the publicly committed branches, the commit messages. You can look at the pre-release notes. You can see what's coming. If a maintainer wants to keep something secret, it's kind of hard to do so.
Right. And just putting your notes in Pig Latin is not enough.
No, it's not a great encryption scheme. I've tried it. In addition, as we kind of alluded to, all the major cloud providers want to get feedback on their products as early as possible, so they have private previews available for new services and features. Even if you're not in the private preview, you can still find out about them, so you kind of have a pretty good idea of what's coming down the pike for any given service within a public cloud. So that's my roundabout way of saying that there weren't like a ton of surprises at the keynotes. But if you haven't been paying close attention, I can summarize them for you. You haven't been paying attention. I know you haven't.
Paying attention to what?
Exactly. We'll start with HashiCorp Vault. That product is all about the management of secrets, controlling their life cycle and their contents. One of the big challenges companies face when adopting Vault or really any other secrets management platform is finding all the existing secrets application developers have squirreled away in their various code bases and config files. Spoiler, it's a lot, and they're
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yep.
And they don't rotate them either.
No, they're often in plain text, which is super secure.
And since they get reused, Rotating one means that you're going to break a bunch of stuff, so you don't.
Yay!
Well, earlier this year, HashiCorp acquired a company called Blue Bracket that is focused on the secret discovery challenge. The software from Blue Bracket has now been rebranded Vault Radar because it finds things, and it's now
Mm.
available as an early access product in their HCP Vault platform, which is their hosted Vault solution. So you can sign up for HCP Vault and then get Vault Radar up and running and discover all the places that your secrets might be, which is everywhere, all the time.
I don't think that I like the name.
You don't like Vault Radar?
Mm,
Hmm.
no.
All
Nope.
right.
It's decided. I don't like the name.
Compass?
I would have gone with Sonar.
Ooh, I kind of like that. Yeah, because it's kind of like it's not in the cloud. It's like underwater. It's hidden. I do like that better. I'm
Much
going to write
like
them a strongly
secrets.
worded letter.
Dear Sir and or Madam.
Despite spending thousands and possibly millions of dollars on marketing, I would like you to change the name of your product.
Consider this a private preview.
Yep. Another challenge with secrets management is the housing of secrets in lots of places, especially if you're living in a multi cloud world. You might have secrets stored in GitHub Actions, Azure Key Vault, AWS Secrets Manager, etc. Now, in an ideal world, not this one, you would be able to centralize those secrets under Vault and update all your applications to go talk to Vault to get the current secret. But in the real world, asking 100 plus application owners to update their code for your pet Vault project is, let's say, pretty unlikely. HashiCorp is aware of this. They have heard the pushback, and so they've introduced what they're calling Vault Sync, which basically allows you to centrally manage your secret values and then push them out to destinations where the applications are expecting to find them. So if your apps are using like Key Vault and Secrets Manager, the secret will still live there. It's just Vault will have permissions to synchronize it to a new value whenever you need it to. And then your application owners don't have to do anything. Insert tired joke about lazy developers here. I may have forgotten
Did-
to write a joke.
did-
Who's lazy now? All
So
right.
this one I think is actually legitimately really cool and is probably something that people don't necessarily get the import of, especially if you're not a developer. Like, what's a secret? Where does it live? Why isn't it all in one place? And one of the biggest things is if you've already got an infrastructure and an application and a life cycle and all this other stuff in your pipeline, changing that stuff out to use Vault directly is a big freaking deal.
Yeah. That has been definitely a central point of pushback as Vault's being rolled out at an organization, especially if they already have like a pretty well thought out CI CD pipeline. I'm like, we already have a place where we put our secrets. Why would we move them all to your new thing?
Right.
And so
And you
this,
can't just say, because we hate you.
I mean, we
Apparently,
do. We do hate you.
apparently that's uncouth.
Yeah. So this sort of bridges that gap where, yep, now your secrets team or your security team can make sure that secrets are being rotated on a regular basis and that they're meeting some level of complexity, and then synchronize those values down to where the application expects to find them.
Right. It's a single source of truth for secrets. Just like we've already, I think, done a pretty good job in IT establishing a single source of truth for identity.
Mm, sometimes. But yeah, Okta
I did
comes to
say I
mind.
think. Right.
Yeah, that idea like Okta, it will push out your identity to all the places. And then
Right.
those places will be where the applications actually go to look for, authentication and identity. So yeah, I like it. Moving over to some other applications, we have Nomad, often known as the redheaded stepchild of the HashiCorp products. It got some long overdue attention. During the keynote, Armin Dodger threw a little bit of shade on Kubernetes with an oblique reference to operational overhead. That's those the words he used. It was very funny. If you knew what he was talking about. And we know what he means. Kubernetes is famously complicated and basically overkill for most simple applications. So HashiCorp is trying to position Nomad as a simpler solution that just does the thing, which by all reports of those who use Nomad say it certainly does. You need a workload scheduled, it schedules the workload and makes sure that the workload is running. And that's it.
That's all you need in like a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm. But Chris, I need so many operators. I need all the operators. So they've worked to tighten up integration with other HashiCorp products like Console and Vault and introduce some modes that work better with edge compute. That's right, suckers. We're back on my edge bullshit from last week. You thought we were done. Edge was referenced directly in the keynote. It was also talked about during one of the breakout sessions and during a private product feedback session too. Nomad weighs in at a huge, just kidding, 44 megabytes. That is the size of the
Whoa.
binary. That's it. It runs as a single process on both the client and the server. So you could say it's like a little bit less weighty than Kubernetes, like a little tiny bit. One of the interesting modes that they introduced was the ability for Nomad to understand that sometimes clients aren't going to check back in for 24 to 48 or even a week. So it won't reschedule a job if there's a setting in there that says you might not hear back from this thing for 48 hours because it's on an oil rig or something. And so internet
Right.
connectivity is pretty spotty. So they are definitely starting to embrace edge applications and try to make Nomad the client of choice for those systems. Unfortunately, the real challenge is building an ecosystem of integrators, influencers, and tutorials and examples all around Nomad and how you would do these different things, which is something that Kubernetes has going for it today, is just the sheer momentum and ubiquity of Kubernetes tutorials. That is true. But there was a time when Lotus 123 was the king of all spreadsheets. We saw what happened there.
Right. It's a similar, it's the old nobody ever got fired for buying IBM joke, right?
Right, until they did.
Nobody ever got fired for buying Kubernetes, which I know, but still, you know what I mean.
You might not buy Kubernetes, but you're sure going to pay for it. But
Sing.
yeah, I felt good about that. As someone who's never entirely bought into Kubernetes and always felt like it was overkill for 99% of the use cases, yeah, I'm pretty okay with something else walking in and replacing it. Not going to bother me at all. People who've built their whole
And
careers on it
it's
will
going to bother them a
probably
little bit.
they might feel the sting. The other lesser known product that got a bit of attention was Waypoint. Waypoint was introduced in 2020, and the initial push was for a simplified and opinionated developer workflow. But it would appear that developers were not particularly fond of HashiCorp's opinions. So now they've reworked Waypoint to be way less opinionated and snap into a platform team's tool belt as a possible internal developer portal. So the new Waypoint is offered as a service on HashiCorp's cloud platform. It includes templates and add-ons, and it lets platform teams define what they call a golden path for application development and deployment. Now, I'm not aware of any God Emperors or Duncan's Idaho within the product, but I'll keep my third eye open on that. You're welcome.
I don't have any hot takes about opinionated developer workflows, so I will nod knowingly towards the Dune reference and we can move right along.
Oh, okay, fine. All right. Well, then lastly, we have Terraform. And you kind of knew we were going to end up here, right? Yeah. Um, there are two big additions to Terraform: testing and stacks. Integrated testing actually dropped in Terraform 1.6 the week before the conference. I don't know why they didn't just have 1.6 release
Yeah,
during the
right. That's
conference.
weird timing, but okay.
Eh. Within 1.6 is native support for writing tests in Terraform using HashiCorp configuration language. Uh, Generally speaking, any good coding language or platform has a way to verify the code that you just wrote does the thing it was like supposed to do. Python has PyTest, Go has the test module, and even PowerShell has Pester. Did you
It's
know
a
it was
good
called
name.
Pester?
It's a good name.
Yeah. Until now, Terraform has been relying on third party tools like TerraTest and Kitchen Terraform to provide testing capabilities. This new testing framework is natively supported in the community version of Terraform, and the tests themselves, like I said, are written in HCL. I'm not going to get into all the detail and syntax behind it, but the short version is each test is defined as a run with a set of assertions. If one of the assertions fails, the test fails. To perform
Hmm.
the test, Terraform spins up actual infrastructure and runs the tests. Coming soon will be planning only runs that don't actually spin up infrastructure, and also the ability to supply mock data instead of having it create actual resources. So, this is sort of the version one of the testing framework. It's going to take longer to run tests because spinning up actual infrastructure takes time, which is why in the future they want to have the mock data available so you can say, this is what it's going to look like for inputs. So you don't have to wait for an EKS cluster to spin up for the next 25 minutes.
Right.
Testing was a big gap, and it was actually the number one ask on the issue board for the Terraform repository. So now it's here, and I guess people are happy. Well, probably not. People are never happy. In fact, they're the worst, and they ruin everything.
Sometimes people are happy by accident.
Yeah, but then immediately they're angry about being happy. It's a weird, it's a weird situation.
You're ruining the vibe.
Or they're like, why am I not happier? The other big announcement was Stacks, and this one was actually a surprise since it's not part of the Terraform community version at the moment and it was hidden from the general public. Armin said that it is the biggest shift in Terraform workflows since the inception of the product. Big claim? He's not wrong. I'll try to explain what stacks are without descending into the bowels of Terraform workflows, uh, especially for those who are not, deep into HCL and Terraform lingo. So let me try to put it this way: stacks are meant to solve the problem of interrelated infrastructure deployments. So that could be, say, like you have an application deployment that's reliant on a database deployment, and that database deployment relies on a network deployment. So those are all interconnected in some way. Or you could have
Doesn't that normally describe all deployments?
most deployments assume that you have some pre existing infrastructure. Uh,
I see.
yeah. And when something happens with that underlying infrastructure, it may impact that deployment or it may not. So, describing the relationship between those two environments becomes important. You also have scenarios where you want to have a staging and a development and a testing and a production environment. And those might also have a relationship regarding how upgrades are meant to flow and the relationship between those different environments. In the world of Terraform, each deployment is represented by a configuration in Terraform and some state data. And if you're using Terraform Cloud, you would use the workspace as that unit of deployment. But there was no way for you to declaratively express the relationship between the deployments. What you would do is write some bash scripts try to shove it into your CI/CD pipeline or glue code together that would express what should just be something you can declaratively say, this environment or this deployment interacts with this other deployment in this way. So when something happens here, I want you to update my configuration here. Couldn't do any of that. Now you can. So, yay. Yes, I see you nodding your head. Well done, sir. Now you can define relationships as first class citizens using a declarative approach with stacks. Assuming you're using Terraform Cloud or Terraform Enterprise, because for the moment, this may change. Stacks are only going to be part of the paid Terraform offerings and not the community edition.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. It is in private preview at the moment, so you have a chance to test it for HashiCorp. My sense here is that HashiCorp feels that this is a killer feature for their paid platforms, and so they don't want to share it out on the free version just yet. We'll see if that changes. I had some assurances from folks inside that said that they are championing moving some aspects of stacks out of the paid versions and into the community version. We'll just have to see how that takes shape.
Right.
Speaking of paid and licensing and all that jazz, I should note that everything announced at HashiConf is under the umbrella of the new BSL licensing that HashiCorp has adopted. For those who are open source purists, these features are not going to be available to you unless you break edge and touch filthy business source licensed software. Filthy. I'm a little less principled, so I'll be playing with all of this stuff as soon as I can. Beyond the product announcements, the event itself was great. I had a great time. The attendance was in the 1,000 people range, which is honestly my kind of conference. I think, Chris, you feel the same.
Yeah, we've talked about this. That's the right number.
Yeah. Mega conferences like the upcoming KubeCon and reInvent are distinctly impersonal and overwhelming. And in a weird way, isolating at the same time. You're just surrounded by people you don't know. Hanging out with 50,000 of your closest friends to watch a keynote remotely from a location in the same city just doesn't sound like my idea of a good time. And of course, there's also the endless queuing for everything, which comes with any large gathering. So I went to reInvent last year and was mostly miserable. I don't know if you've gone to anything big recently.
I mean, even before COVID, this was my attitude. I have been to reInvent before, but it's been a while. And even back then, I was like, never again. I much prefer the satellite events.
Yeah.
reInvent has their little breakouts that are a smaller version of the same announcements in localized cities that covers most of the same material. And anything they don't cover, you can watch online. So for me, at least, I completely agree that going to a 50,000 person conference is not worth it.
No. In my estimation, HashiConf felt small, personal, approachable. All of the people there seemed very friendly. Personally, I found I couldn't walk from one end of the expo hall to the other without getting pulled into at least 3 different conversations. And I ended up chatting with folks like HashiCorp's CEO. He was just standing there, hanging out. And I was like, "Hi, Dave." And we got into a conversation about his time at Microsoft, oddly enough. But that's
You got into a
because
conversation with his security for invading his personal space.
no, that's the thing.
Is
Just like
that
this.
why you called me from the police department?
No, that was about the other thing, which we'll talk about later.
Oh, right.
I still,
Right.
I still might need some money. Um, yeah, but it's like the CEO, the CTO, the chief marketing officer, all of them were just hanging out in the expo hall. And so if you wanted to talk to a big wig, it wasn't like you had to go through 3 sets of security and behind 6 closed doors. Like they were just there. Like they were almost normal people. I mean, they're not. They're weirdos. But it's
Right, but they do a
almost like
good
they were.
job pretending?
Yes, just like the Terminator. Oh. Anyway, that was pretty much it about HashiConf, unless you have other things you want me to talk about, Chris.
Um, no, I think you covered everything I expected you to cover. And I intentionally didn't read anything up on this just to see what was like top of mind for you. One of the things I think that's interesting to see, and it's going to be interesting to see how it goes over time, and you kind of alluded to it, is people know HashiCorp for one thing.
Mostly. Yeah.
Now, I do believe that Vault is starting to make some inroads, and it's at least got some name recognition, right?
Yeah.
Um, what is your feeling, and what was the feeling of the room, I guess, for the conversations, whether they were formal or otherwise, about how all the other things and all the other HashiCorp efforts are going? Like, are they making progress with people knowing what Nomad is?
I'm there with a skewed demographic. So the people that were there are self-selected HashiCorp folks, so they at least know the products, even if they don't intimately work with all of them. I say Nomad is still one of the ones that is not used that much. Another product that I didn't even really talk about, but Boundary, that came out at the same time as Waypoint, that has actually made some significant inroads in a lot of organizations because it's on the security side. So folks who already know about Vault are more likely, and their security folks are probably likely to be interested in Boundary and that sort of remote access for humans that it provides. So yeah, that product's actually it has probably done better than Nomad if we're looking at their product portfolio. Yeah, I don't know. Terraform's still going to be the 10,000 pound gorilla in the room, and Vault is going to be, a distant second, and everything else is going to be probably a result of people not liking Kubernetes. I'm not
I,
kidding. Like
I
the
no, I
reason
believe you.
you
I'm laughing with.
the reason you use console and Nomad is because like the overwrought network virtualization that comes with using Kubernetes is just not there with console and Nomad. Like they're relatively lightweight. They do a lot of the same things, but they do it in a way that doesn't require like a PhD and like 70 hours of intensive training. You can just kind of use them. So I think they need to get that messaging across. And one of the sessions that they had was they're developing sort of a well architected framework for HashiCorp stuff and also predefined models for deployment. And they're talking to existing customers about implementing those predefined models. So that could be a place for success where it's like, well, here's just the stack. Just deploy the stack as it is. And here's all the checkboxes and all the things you'll need to do that. And suddenly you're running the Hashi stack.
Are we gonna have to call it the Hashi Stack?
I already did. It's too late. No going back. Yeah. If you're interested, there's a project called HashiCube, spelled with a Q, that is an open source project one of the ambassadors put together that runs all the HashiCorp products inside of containers. So you can just tell it, I think it uses Docker Compose. You can say, I want all of it, and it will spin up every community version of the project of the products they have. It's a lot. So, yeah.
That's also not a good name.
You are so negative.
Look, I didn't even look. I think I should be complimented. I didn't even bring up HashiCorp Vault Cloud once. So
Fair enough. We also didn't talk about Vault Secrets, which, and moving on. Next year's HashiConf is going to be in Boston, which I'm pretty psyched for because it means that I don't have to get on a plane and I don't have to deal with any time zone changes. So it's really all about me. And I also like Beantown to start with. Um, so if you're interested in HashiCorp stuff, definitely worth checking out. It'll be this around the same general time frame, but in Boston instead. Hey, thanks for listening or something. I guess you found it worthwhile enough if you made it all the way to the end. So, congratulations to you, friend. You accomplished something today. Now you can go sit on a couch, have some chicken mole, and ponder your existence for the next 24 to 48 hours till Nomad checks back in with you. You've earned it. You can find more about the show by visiting our LinkedIn page. Just search chaoslever.com or go to our website, chaoslever.cow, where you can find show notes, blog posts, and general tomfoolery. We'll be back next week to see what fresh hell is upon us. Ta-ta for now. I did ask somebody like how much it would cost to spin up a new top-level domain, and they said like $50,000 to $60,000, and a friend. I was like, I don't have either of those.
That's damn it. Don't steal my jokes. I'm the joke guy.
So sorry.